So I got this email last week, Captain, and I think this was must have been Friday, I'm guessing. Maybe Thursday. Anyway, it's from a guy named Scott somewhere in Indiana. So he and his friends saw that this guy was arrested in Indiana, and they thought, hey, maybe this is
the captain,
the bridge guy from the Delphi double homicide.
Yeah.
And we covered that case back in episode 110, 111. This was like late May 2017 when we covered it. It was shortly after the actual murder because the poor girls, they were killed either most likely on February 13th, and then their bodies were found on the 14th of 2017 in Delphi, Indiana. And so the way that this works, and what I was able to find on this guy online from a newspaper report, and I'll just kind of read bits and pieces of it, and you kind of just throw out your reaction or any thoughts that you have as we go along. But they're saying that this guy's 35 years old. He's from a place called Dyer, Indiana, and that the authorities allege that he had attempted to purchase underage girls last year through social media, some sort of social media account. Okay. So do we know if it was was it a sting operation? Was it like To Catch a Predator style where it's, No, I think somebody just reported, saw this guy's activity and things that he was doing on, I think it was Twitter. So it's not like
it's on Twitter. Okay.
It's not like real people aren't seeing this. You know what I mean? Like he's kind of openly doing this. So somebody reports him to the authorities. Because
that's weird because the way Twitter works is you can actually send a tweet out to the public, or you could just send a direct message to somebody.
Mm-hmm.
And so you would assume that one would, if they were going to proposition to buy somebody, that they would do so through the direct message.
Well, okay. Well, I'll tell you what he wrote on Twitter, and we'll just kind of take it from there. Uh-huh. This guy's name is George Ambrose, and I hope that I'm saying that the last name is Ambroz, and he was charged just last Thursday. So this would have been Friday when I got this information. He was charged last Thursday in Lake Criminal Court with child solicitation, possession of child pornography, and obscene performance.
Mm-hmm.
So his tweet, this is one of them, and this was dated from July 24th, 2017. His tweet read, "If I give you $300K cash, will you sell me your 7-year-old daughter? Contact me if so."
So do we know if this is a direct message or if it's just going out to the world?
It doesn't say, but that the way that that's written, it sounds to me like it's to somebody specifically.
Right. So direct message, yeah.
Because he's referencing but then again, he is saying contact me, right? Like it's kind of open-ended, I guess. So maybe, I don't know. I don't know if this is to everybody or to somebody specific. But then there were other sexually explicit messages on his Twitter account regarding underage girls as well. One message stating, quote, "I have sexually assaulted someone much younger than me." And this guy, so I don't know what much younger than me means according to him, but George Ambrose is 35 years old, from Dyer, Indiana.
Right. So George has a lot of issues.
Yeah, I think that's putting it extremely politely. On July 10th, he allegedly wrote, quote, "I work for the railroad, butcher and welder. Therefore, I have the right to be angry, drunken, drugged, violent temper, and a rapist. I have the right to rape just because I work for the railroad," which I didn't know that is a privilege that is afforded to you through your work on the railroad. I know a lot
of fine people that work for the railroad, and they do not have a license to rape.
So does, for a lack of better term, does it just seem like this guy's crazy and lost it, and he's kind of just sending crazy messages out to everyone?
Well, I normally like to joke, but I don't find anything about this, wanting to buy children. I don't find that funny at all, and it's sick. So, I mean,
No.
So when I said he's sick, I didn't mean like, or disturbed. I didn't mean like, obviously he's a fucking idiot. But you know what I mean? It was like, there's something wrong with this guy if he's posting this stuff. And if any of it's going out to the public, that's even crazier. You know what I mean? Like, it's almost like, if you're keeping your craziness a little bit behind the closed doors, then it's not as crazy as then posting this stuff to the rest of the world. I work for the railroad company, so I have the right to rape and kill. And you're like, what the? Wow. Is this guy insane? I mean, I would wonder.
Well, he says he has the right to rape. He doesn't say anything about killing. But and I'm not saying that I think, I don't my suspicions weren't initially that this guy was trying to be funny and he's just an idiot.
No.
My initial reaction was, this guy is probably completely insane. And
he might be mentally ill.
And he's sending these tweets out to people that are of an evil, crazy nature.
Yeah.
And that I thought, okay, well, do we have a situation here where we have a guy that's not actually guilty of anything other than these posts, right? Mm-hmm. So then I read on further.
Well, but hold on. I mean, that's enough. Trying to solicitate a minor online or trying to buy a child off of somebody. Hey, that's enough for me. You lock that son of a bitch up.
Well, of course. But what I'm saying is, this information was passed on to me as hey, this is a potential suspect for the Delphi double homicide. What I'm saying is, my initial reaction is this guy actually guilty of anything other than these posts?
Right.
Okay. So, which within just these posts, of course, you're going to have obscene performance. He's being charged with child solicitation, possession of child pornography, and obscene performance. Just with these tweets, he's guilty of child solicitation and obscene performance, regardless of
the obscene performance. I'm guessing he's like showing his genitalia or touching himself.
I don't know. It could be, but what I'm guessing, somebody just by saying, "Hey, I am a rapist and I have the right to rape," is enough of an obscene performance.
Okay.
Given that it might be a public platform, that he's putting this out there to people that don't want to hear this, obviously. Mm-hmm. But the thing here is where we get the child pornography charge is police they went to his home on July 10th and they questioned him about these obscene messages. And he allegedly admitted that he wrote the messages, but he asked why they were a problem. So Ambrose then was arrested and he was charged with that child solicitation. Police allege Ambrose posted a photo July 2nd to Twitter of an underage girl engaging in sexual acts. So this is where we're going to see the child pornography charge coming from.
Right.
So apparently he's been jailed. The bond for him, $70,000. He was scheduled to make an initial court appearance on Friday. I did a little double checking. It sounds like he's due back in court in September. The other thing here is it's a bit weird because you would expect whoever carried out this Delphi double homicide to be likely that they have molested children or engaged in some of the activity here that they allege George Ambrose has engaged in.
Right.
The other thing, though, it's weird because where our friends listening in Indiana that sent us this information, they say they think he looks like the bridge guy. I actually, the one picture I've seen of him, I don't think that he looks like the bridge guy, but I also, this is kind of a weird statement. I don't think that he looks like the bridge guy, but I also don't think that he does not look like the bridge guy. Do you know what I mean by that?
Oh, no.
So it's Ambrose, Ambroz. So the picture I see of him, he has that little beard that's similar to the bridge guy. And for those that aren't familiar with the case, the bridge guy is the person that's suspected in this killing because one of the victims were Liberty Germain and Liberty German and Abby Williams, 13 and 14 years old. One of the girls was extremely brave and took audio and a picture or maybe even video of the guy that approached them. And
right. And the tough thing here is, we don't know what the police have and what they don't have. But the way that the police have kind of presented this is the guy that you see on the tracks following them is the guy that murdered them. So one can assume that maybe they have more, maybe parts of the attack on video, but that's all that's just pure speculation.
Well, and we call him Bridge Guy because the photo that they released to the public shows this man on the bridge. He's walking across a bridge. And it's strange. It's so weird that this thing is not solved. And I know we talked about that quite a bit when we covered the case, that here they have the guy's voice on tape. They have audio of the guy's voice, and then they have a picture of the guy. Now, mind you, the picture that have been released to the public, it's of some distance. It's not like a close-up picture of this guy, but it's of some distance. And it's weird that there has not been, there's been a lot of arrest because of this case, but none of them for the actual murder.
Well, now, and look, I think I stated this at our live event. I was talking with an individual that worked closely with the FBI or possibly worked for the FBI that said, based off the leads that they got, that there was over 200 arrests made. That basically a lead through Facebook or a lead from, hey, I actually know this kind of creepy guy that lives in the area. They found out that creepy guy is a sex offender but not registered. The FBI went in and swooped up all those individuals. Then the question becomes, does law enforcement have DNA or not?
Right. Well, and we went through all those questions because we covered this case 2 months after it took place. And we went through, 3 months after it took place, but we went through all the questions we had because rightfully so, there's not been a lot released to the public other than the picture of this man on the bridge and then the voice, this man's voice of him saying down the hill. And so what was horrible about covering this case, and it's something I would not realize until till a lot later, till a year later, was we did at CrimeCon, at our last CrimeCon, I went to the Delphi presentation. I think they did more than one, but I went to one of them. And on the stage, you had the lead sheriff or lead investigating officer there. You had, I believe, the grandparents of one of the victims and then the mother of one of the victims. And you also had I don't know if it was a spokesperson for the sheriff's department or if it was an agent from the FBI, but it was somebody involved in this investigation. One thing that I learned from watching that presentation, remember that crazy guy that was arrested in Colorado? Yeah. So there's this guy in Colorado. And
Daniel Nations.
He somewhat looks like the bridge guy. He looks a little younger than what I anticipate this bridge guy actually is. I don't know Daniel Nations' actual age, but I'm judging a book by its cover, Captain. I'm just going off of the mugshot photo of him. But when he was arrested, he's arrested in Colorado off of a hiking trail because he like accosted these people, and he's yielding a
hatchet,
welding.
Right?
Yeah. I don't know that I used the right word there, but he's carrying a hatchet with him. So he's extremely threatening, and he's almost looking like he's going to murder these people or at least attack them. And he's arrested, and then they find out, hey, he's from Indiana.
Right.
And was he homeless? Was he somebody that was kind of just not working and living out in the woods?
Well, I think the biggest thing from him is when they, at the time, I think he was just camping outside, and then he tried to attack these individuals. But when they arrested him, what they found out was he had a warrant for his arrest, or he was supposed to face trial and just left Indiana.
Left the state.
And I believe it was a couple weeks after the murders. And so if you look at here's my issue with it. You have a drawing, artistic rendering of what we think the suspect looks like. Now, again, we have a picture from the FBI. We have a picture from law enforcement and the FBI,
right,
of Bridgeman, and he's on a bridge, this walking path of the bridge, but we don't know what else they have. So I don't know if they have a closer picture, that they took that picture and then did an artist rendering, and then if they do, I'd say, well, this artist rendering is the guy.
Yeah,
but I don't know if they have that or not. I have no clue what the FBI has. So I don't know how close this artist depiction of the suspect is. So when you see this guy, Daniel Nations, he looks kind of like him. But this guy kind of looks like almost everybody you compare him to. Like, I've seen when this case was really hot and people talked about the Delphi Murders case a lot.
Well, it was all over TV, and the reward for information was crazy high. Didn't it get to be like $250,000 at one point, maybe higher?
Yeah, and the other fact was we covered this case when there was little to no information, and the main reason why we covered that case was because there was a big effort in this area, in the Ohio area and the Indiana area, to bring as much attention to this case, because we have these pictures, we have this footage. This case is very solvable. I probably got an email every other day from somebody snooping around Facebook, doing armchair detectives, that would send me a picture. This guy lives somewhat in the area.
Right.
And he kind of looks like the sketch. Okay. Well, that I don't know what that means to me. Again, because I don't know this artist rendering. I don't know how close it is to the suspect or not. I mean, it'd be nice if the FBI came out and said, hey, we have a closer up image, and from that image, we drew the sketch. But I've probably seen 5 or 6 suspects that people have sent me side-by-side comparisons from the sketch to the picture, and I go, yeah, I can see that. I can see this Daniel Nation guy looking like the sketch on some level.
But does that mean he looks like the guy in the picture?
Well, just like George Ambrose. You look at him. Now, the problem with his picture that's at least released to the public right now is it's cutting off his forehead. It's cutting off his double chin. His eyes are so close together. It looks like they're having an arm wrestling match. But he has this longer hair, where when you look at Daniel Nations after he's arrested, he has pretty short hair. Pretty short hair for somebody that doesn't even have a residency. And definitely in the sketch, you can see that they put longer, wavier type hair. Not like shoulder length hair, but longer hair. That matches more of this George Ambrose picture than it does the Daniel Nations picture.
Well, the thing that I learned from watching the Delphi presentation at CrimeCon was law enforcement and the families were saying, hey, that arrest of Daniel Nations, is it Nation or Nations?
Nation, I think.
Okay. That arrest of Daniel Nation, they said, was a huge setback for their investigation, because this was an area that was still reliant on the public for tips. And when the news of this guy being arrested broke and saying, hey, we're going to transport him back to Indiana, well, the public all kind of just assumed that, hey, they've arrested the right guy.
They got him. It's solved.
They got him. It's solved. It's only a matter of time before he goes to court. And they said that was a huge setback for them. Now, the thing that was extremely depressing and deflating to me and made me want to check myself, it actually made me want to punch myself in the face. But
made me want to punch you in the face too.
Well, you should punch yourself in the face, because the thing was, when I spoke with one of the family members of the victim, one of the victims, she told me she thanked us for getting the word out, for keeping the story alive, and to give it another platform for a place for it to be discussed. And hopefully, she said confidently she thinks they may have received some tips just because of us covering it. But what really broke my heart was, I said, "Oh, so you listened to it," and which made me feel bad because I know what was said during the course of those 2 episodes. But those were things we had to discuss the case. And a lot of it was speculation, but it's not anything anybody wants to hear about anybody they know or loved. Mm-hmm. And those were things that I had to say to tell the story. And I hated myself when I was in front of her talking to her. And she said, "I listened to part of the first episode and I couldn't play the second episode." And it wasn't because she didn't listen to it. I was thankful at that moment. I was like, "Oh, thank God she didn't listen to the whole thing," because it would have been a lot to put herself through our speculation of the case. And I asked her, I said, "Well, what can we do going forward to help? Because this case is near and dear to us. This is something that's on our hearts, weighing on our hearts and weighing on our minds. It's something that the whole community needs to be solved." And she simply said, "Just keep doing what you're doing. Keep bringing up old cases and reference our case from time to time and mention it again. And if you have the opportunity, can you let the public know that arrest and the assumptions made by the public regarding the arrest of Daniel Nation was a setback in their mind?" Nations. Sorry.
I finally looked it up.
That was a setback in their investigation. Now, I didn't get any clear reasoning why, because you would assume that if they keep saying that that's a setback, then he doesn't appear to be their guy, no. Right? So the law enforcement officer that was there, I kind of thought it was a bit of a vague answer, because I did ask. I said, "Well, how were you able to clear him? How do you know? Can this man prove that he was not in the state of Indiana at the time? Had he left prior to these murders?" I think the answer he gave me, and I apologize because I'm just going off of memory here, but I think he said, "Well, we don't have anything tying him to the murders. We don't have anything tying him to the area. We cannot put Daniel Nations, in that spot on that day." And
that's a big debate online. Do they have DNA or do they not?
Yeah, that was a big debate on our show too.
Because one would say, "Well, we can't put him in the area. Okay, therefore, there's no DNA, right? Because because then you just say, well, the DNA matched or it didn't match." But then on the other side, we've had so many hundreds and hundreds of thousands of tips that have been brought to law enforcement. Over 200 arrests made, 200 people arrested, and DNA samples taken, from what I heard, and then these individuals were cleared. So then that makes me think that there was DNA.
Right, and that's the thing, Captain. When I'm always the skeptic. When the officer told me, "Well, we can't find anything to tie him to the area. We can't put him there on that day."
Right.
I'm always the skeptic, and I go, "Okay, well," my brain's going, "Can you put him elsewhere? Do you know that he was elsewhere? Are you just saying that we can't put him there, but we don't know for certain?" And I think I'm with you. I feel like if they were able to clear people, that rumor of DNA has to be true. And I hope that it is, because obviously at this point, that's going to be the easiest way to catch this guy and to make sure that you have the right person. But we still need, and the Williams family and the German family, they still need tips. They still need the public's help. So I'll quickly remind everybody, there is a phone number you can call with an anonymous tip. I appreciate our good listeners in Indiana sending us this information so we could discuss it. Thank you for the email. Thank you for the information. But also, if you feel strongly about things, we are not the people to call or email or contact first. You know what I mean? Law enforcement are the ones that can get things done.
Right. And the other problem, too, is with social media, with our schedules, our work schedules, with putting out the shows and covering new cases every week. One of the last things on our list to check our emails through the website.
Right. The anonymous tip number is 844-459-5786. That's for anybody with any type of information at all. And here's the thing. If you are sitting on something, on some kind of information, and you think you might have something that would be good for law enforcement, you don't have to know everything about it. Sometimes it's just sending them in the right direction or pointing them in the right direction. And if there's something that you are suspicious of or you think could help break this case, send it to them. Let them decide. Don't sit at home and wonder, who do I tell? What do I do with this? Or do I do nothing? Because I know what some people think. They think, well, it's probably nothing. It's most likely nothing. And this will be embarrassing when it turns out to be nothing. No.
Yeah, but you'll never hear about it if it turns out to be nothing. And, and the other thing, too, like I said, when you have thousands of leads that were called in by armchair detectives, you have over 200 arrests that were made. Now, from the rumors I heard and from the sources I've talked to, that those over 200 arrests had a lot to do with unregistered sex offenders. Now, if there's any individual that should be arrested and getting off the streets because they didn't do what they're supposed to do, is, to me, unregistered sex offender. And this is protecting children, and this is protecting communities.
Right.
So, but the other thing on the other side of the spectrum is when there are arrests made and people of the media speculate that there was arrests made, whatever the case is, Golden State Killer case, the Delphi Murders case. A lot of times when people are sending me this stuff, one, I'm following it anyways. I do appreciate it being shared to me because that's how I get the information. But the other problem with it is jumping to conclusions that, they made arrests, so therefore it's solved. And one of the things that I reply constantly is, let's just wait and see where it goes. Yes, they got this guy arrested. Hopefully there's a confession. Hopefully he just confesses and we get done with it. Mm-hmm. But let's see where it goes. Because in this case, there was arrest. I talked with hundreds of people about this arrest. Talked to hundreds of people for weeks on people telling me it's so great it's solved. And I kept on saying, let's see this Daniel Nations. And then it comes out of nowhere, months and months later, oh, he's not the guy. And that took me digging to find somebody to say, to kind of get a definitive, and it wasn't even that definitive. Right. It was just basically, well, we don't think he's our guy. Well, okay, well, that's months and months and months of people that could have been talking, and how many hundreds of thousands of people now walk around going, Delphi Murders, I thought that was solved. Yeah.
And the thing is, it's weird because I believe even to this day, if you just do a quick search of Delphi Murders update or Delphi case update, I think the ones that kind of rise to the top there are the ones stating that Daniel Nations was arrested.
Right.
And like you said,
with the connection to the murders.
And like you said, you have to do some digging to find out that it's looking like he's not the guy. And that's why I think, we're not trying to do the same thing here. We're not trying to make the same blunder that happened with the Daniel Nations arrest with this George Ambrose guy. But this is just some speculation from some of our good listeners out there that said, hey, this guy, he's up to no good. He's not terribly far from where this crime would have been committed. I think they told me
and if he
Dyer's like a 2-hour drive, maybe.
Well, and, one of my buddies, Morgan, that's been working on this case a lot, actually, in his spare time, he's still working on it, following leads. One of the things that he always kind of suspected was that the individual that was responsible for these murders worked for the railroads. Now, he said, I work for the railroad, butcher, and welder. So, is he connected to the railroad in some way? And if he is, I hope that they have DNA and they can lock this guy down.
And the thing is, too, Captain, it's we don't know. We're not saying this guy's connected. It's an interesting possible lead here. And I think this was also with the arrest of this scumbag. If he did do what they're saying he did, he does not need to be on the streets. He has no business being in anyone's community. He belongs behind bars. And at the very least, though, this man's arrest gives us a good opportunity and excuse to keep the Delphi case alive and to remind people that it's unsolved and that everybody, they still need your help.